So, welcome. This is Thomas, and I say welcome to my guests. Once a year, we meet up in the internet. Brett Snyder, also known as Cranky Flier. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me back again this time around.
Yeah, and our topic is the small look back in January to the year before. We had a lot of airlines stopped operations. Yeah, I don't know
We
if
did.
sometimes for some weeks, sometimes for some months, and sometimes, or in the most cases, for ever. And I want to go on your website, crankyflier.com, and scroll through your list. When I go there at the beginning, January and February, we see two Italian airlines. And I know that you are an expert for the Italian flight market, I would say, because just today, you made a new post about Alitalia. Please tell us, what is your opinion about those Ernest and Air Italy and Alitalia?
Well, Alitalia, I have for many years referred to as the worst airline ever. And I mean that from a business perspective, not from flying the airline. But, they're reorganizing again because the Italian government will never let them die. So that's Alitalia. The other airlines, however, the Italian government will let them die. So, so Ernest was the first one on my list, I think, to go under in 2021, and it was an interesting airline actually. They picked up a couple of A320s, and they were trying to serve more of the niche ethnic market. So Albania was their first effort. They also moved into Ukraine at one point. And they were really just trying to, carry ethnic travelers back and forth between Italy and those markets. They tried a couple other markets. It doesn't seem like they had a very clear strategy, but it didn't last very long anyway, and they disappeared. So that was a quick one for them to go away.
And always the same question. What do you think? Which of the other airlines will take this market, or...
Great. I don't know. This is this is a market they were trying to develop. So maybe it's possible that it's a market that didn't exist as much as they thought it did. But otherwise, within Italy, you see mostly the low cost airlines that are growing there. So if there is a market to be had, Ukraine, I would imagine Wizz would be really on top of that one. But otherwise, you could see EasyJet, Ryanair, Volotea, anyone. They're all in the Italian market and looking for opportunities. So that's always possible. But Ernest wasn't very big.
And going 1 month later to Air Italy, what is it? A big loss?
Well, it was a big failure. It was a spectacular failure. Air Italy was Meridiana before that, and then Qatar Airways came in and said, "Here's a bunch of money, and here's a bunch of airplanes, and we're going to make you this amazing global airline based on the Milan hub," which Alitalia has generally focused on Rome, although they changed their mind week by week. So this was that effort to say we'll do this in Milan. And they started rapidly. They flew to several destinations in the U.S. They flew to Asia. They flew all over the place, and then they had domestic as well. But it never made money, and I don't think anyone ever thought it would. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Qatar was thinking with that, but they didn't put any more money in. It was actually similar to when Etihad stopped putting money into Alitalia, except the Italian government won't let Alitalia fail, and they will let Air Italy fail. So that just disappeared. And, some of those long distance routes, if there really is a market there, someone will fly it. I mean, certainly they flew to New York. There are many other airlines that fly that. So that'll be fine. And then domestic, that'll be entirely the low-cost carriers that will just step in and serve those markets.
Okay. So coming to those regional routes in Europe, the next one candidate is Flybe in March. I think this is a bigger thing. Yeah.
That was a big failure. It was certainly an airline that served an important function in the UK, serving a lot of regional markets. You've heard people probably refer to British Airways as London Airways, right? So this is, how do you serve a lot of those smaller regional markets? And Flybe was an airline that had struggled with its growth. It had gone into jets, and then it had gotten rid of many of the jets, and it had really focused more on the Q400. I had the chance to fly it in 2019, which was nice. I flew it from Heathrow, which is very strange to fly a turboprop out of Heathrow.
Was it turbo? Okay.
It was, up to Edinburgh. But, so they were almost out of business, and then Virgin Atlantic decided they wanted to save the airline and try and use it to feed its network. And so they partnered with Connect Airways, which was related to another Irish carrier, and they ended up lasting for a brief period of time, but I don't think they were ever properly funded. And, as soon as the pandemic started to show up, and this really, they were in trouble long before that happened, but when that happened, I think that was the end, and they just disappeared. Although there's continued talk about them coming back. Virgin Atlantic would like to see that. I'm not going to place any bets on that one.
Okay. And you enjoyed your flight to Edinburgh with them?
I did. It was a beautiful day, too. It was really nice. But, a lot of their routes were already taken by Loganair. There are several regional airlines like that in the UK, something we don't really have in the US, actually. Yeah. But, others have stepped in to pick up some of the best routes, and then the rest are gone for now.
Coming to Edinburgh, I saw today an in-flight video of the approach. Yeah? You come through from the seaside, above rests of a castle, and if you have good weather, it seems to be very fantastic to land in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a very rare, warm, nice day when I landed, and so I just walked around the city that evening. It was so nice.
Yeah. Our recommendation for traveling when it's possible again. I saw on your list there are a lot of German airlines like Germanwings, LGW. We say to this Luftfahrtgesellschaft Walter, it in German.
That's exactly how I was going to pronounce it.
I thought, so if I can help a little bit, then I can help with this. But it's not funny for us here in the German market, because these are airlines which, operated a long time, LGW for 40 years. And so I think it's the same situation as in Italy. When you have those small airlines, they do not survive. They're used by the bigger airlines for feeders, something, But at the end of the day, they lost their contract with Lufthansa, and that was their dead.
Well, yeah, but they're actually lucky they even had that contract, because they were originally, otherwise they would have been on the list last year with all of the Air Berlin related failures. Because they were part of the Air Berlin network for some time, and then when that all failed, Lufthansa picked them up. But it's Lufthansa's Eurowings strategy is so confusing and involves so many different airlines for no apparent reason that when they finally try to make a strategy that makes sense, unfortunately, airlines like LGW lose out. And Germanwings, I'm not even sure there, because I assume that probably a lot of the people that technically worked at Germanwings, they end up just absorbing into Eurowings, one of the other operating carriers. In the end, Germanwings wasn't wasn't a brand anymore.
Yeah, it has something to do with the different places for the headquarters as well. So the Germanwings was in Cologne. I think they want to concentrate on Frankfurt, and this is the old Lufthansa story between Cologne and Frankfurt with the headquarter. And so
well, there's
Lufthansa,
also just no reason for multiple airlines to operate under the same brand in Germany. I mean, it doesn't help. Unfortunately for Germanwings, I think it will be remembered only for sad, terrible tragedy. You know, it was a low-cost brand here and there, but it was really that accident in the Alps where the pilot took the airplane down that I think is what it will be remembered for, sadly.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Having a look to the US market, you mentioned two airlines which go down in April. It was Transstates and Compass. So I'm not into those smaller airlines over there. What about the US market? They concentrate on the four big airlines or brands. So.
Yeah. So the Transstates and Compass are both regional airlines, but not like a Flybe regional airline. They all flew under the brands of the bigger airlines. So similar to what LGW is doing with Lufthansa. Transstate and actually Transstates and Compass, they're owned by the same company. It's called Transstate Holdings. So Transstates itself, in the end, it was just flying 50-seat regional jets as United Express, and United decided to consolidate with one operator. So at one point they had these airplanes being flown by Transstates as United Express. They had ExpressJet flying them, and they had Commutair flying them. And now ExpressJet and Transstates are gone, and so Commutair is the only one flying the Embraer 145s for United. And then Compass was flying for both Delta and American using Embraer 175s. But Delta had ended the contract last year with them. And they were flying entirely out of Los Angeles for both airlines. So Delta ended the agreement last year. Delta has now gone down to only 3 regional partners, which in the U.S. is a small number. And so Compass lost, and then American didn't really need that capacity. The agreement came up, and so American ended that as well, and then Compass had nothing left to do, so they went away.
So I can see a kind of red line when we go through the months, and we go from Europe to North America to the US market, and then we come to South America. And there are some airlines as well which didn't survive 2020. I listed just for a second. It's TAME, I would say to this, in Ecuador. It's Avianca Peru. We always have to say airline name and subsidiary in a special country. Yeah. So Avianca is not is flying, but not in Peru anymore. And then we have in Argentina, LATAM Argentina, and the brand, the Aerolíneas Argentinas brand Austral.
Yeah, so in South America, every country has its own rules, and you have these brands that are trying to serve the whole continent, but they have to have different operating carriers to really be able to serve the local markets. And so that's why you find these things. And for Avianca and LATAM, they both filed for bankruptcy protection this year. They were both in very poor financial shape. And so as part of that, they had to make decisions on what to continue and what not to continue. And so for Avianca, they had already last year lost, even though they weren't entirely related, but the Argentinian brand was gone and the one in Brazil was gone. And so now the one in Peru is gone. And their main focus is in Colombia, in their main headquarters. It's on Bogota. And they do have the Central American operation still from the TACA merger. And in fact, Avianca Peru was TACA Peru. before the merger. But they've really decided this is where they need to focus is in Colombia, and so this one just went away. And then for LATAM, Argentina is just the worst place to try and run an airline. For years, the government protected Aerolíneas Argentinas, and then that made it very difficult. Then a new government came in and said, we want competition. And so then you found every airline starting up low fare, including Norwegian, which said, hey, we're going to fly in Argentina, which makes no sense. So that's gone. But, it's not a great operating environment for LATAM. And so they finally gave up in that market. And then, of course, you have TAME, which TAME is similar to what you'll find in a lot of countries, that it's an old airline that's been around for a long time. They think it's important, but it's losing money. It's not structured right. So they just get rid of it, and then they'll probably start up a new airline under a different name later to, lose more money. I don't know.
Before we close the world line, the red line to Asia, I want to come back to level Europe. Yeah, so I think this is a little bit complicated, and we have to explain it a little bit because there is a level Europe based in Austria, which stopped their flights in June, and there is Level France, which operate from Paris Orly, I guess. The long haul flights, but there is still a level. What is your result of?
Well, I need a whiteboard so I can write. I can draw this for you because level is ridiculous. So level, when it started, was out of Barcelona first. Yes. It was using Iberia-operated aircraft and just under the Level name. And that's basically what they're back to now. If it lives, we'll see. But that's all they're doing again right now. But what they had done is they had tried to either expand or merge things into the Level brand. And so what happened in Austria is when Air Berlin failed and its subsidiary Niki was up for grabs, and everyone wanted a piece of it. IAG lost that battle, and so they said, okay, we're going to start our own airline. But instead of just moving Vueling in, which would have made sense if it were a good market, they created Level Europe to fly short-haul flights from Vienna, which is an incredibly competitive market. And then I think they went into Amsterdam possibly, but they flew some short-haul flights. It never did well. Vueling is the brand that should do that and does it successfully for IAG. And so they finally gave up this year on that. And then Level France is what used to be Open Skies. If everyone remembers Open Skies, which was the airline that British Airways started when the Open Skies Agreement was signed because they wanted to fly business markets from the continent to the U.S. And Open Skies, I don't think it ever was overly successful, but it lasted for some time. And then eventually they gave up and said, no, we're going to make it Level, and it's going to just be like every other Level, low fare, low cost, completely different model than what Open Skies was. And so they tried that, and gosh, I don't even remember how long it flew under that brand, but it wasn't very long. And so that's gone now too. So Level's back to just a couple airplanes operated by Iberia out of Barcelona, and we'll see if that lasts. It doesn't really seem to have much of a reason to exist. It's not really anything that important in the IAG universe. And I think that more likely what we'll see is the Aer Lingus brand do more. They've already talked about they're going to fly from Manchester in the UK into the US. I think that is probably the brand that they'll use for more lower cost long haul.
What do you think? Which aircraft model they choose? Is the A321neo an option, the long range one?
Yeah, Absolutely. And you don't even need the long range for some of those routes from the East Coast to Europe. The Neo is a very good airplane on its own. But yeah, that's going to be a really good airplane for them to operate on some of these routes, especially to the far western parts of Europe where you really don't need as much range.
As you mean good in the sense for the airline?
Oh yeah,
not in the sense for the customer when you see the thin seats, or what do you say?
Yeah, it that just depends on how each airline decides to outfit the airplane. So it may not be great for customers, but on the other hand, if you have the choice of sitting on that airplane with uncomfortable seats versus having to connect through Heathrow or something like that, it may still be better for customers. But we'll see. I haven't really seen what they're doing on board their aircraft, so I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Coming to the Asian market, I will point out Nok Scoot, if I pronounce it correctly.
I have no idea.
But this was from the design one of the most craziest airlines, I would say.
Yeah. Oh man.
Then I would say Tiger Air Australia as well. Australia is not Asia, but the oceanic market. We have this Air Asia Japan and Cathay Dragon in Hong Kong. What would you say to as a result the market in Asia? Who is the winner and who is the loser over there at the moment?
That's a great question. There are a lot of losers right now because it's such a difficult place to operate, with China, with the pandemic originating there, and then having some issues politically with different markets, and I think that's been a problem. Domestic Chinese travel is strong, but outside of that, it's certainly been weaker. You see in different markets, you see different things happening. So in Southeast Asia, Nok Scoot was a fairly ridiculous effort for Singapore Airlines to use their low-cost brand Scoot to create a subsidiary in Thailand that would fly medium longer haul flights with Thai, with a partnership with Nok Air, which is partially owned by Thai. And it was never a good idea. So the pandemic only made that worse. So that's good. That's gone. AirAsia Japan, this is the second time they've tried to do an AirAsia Japan. It has not gone well either time. You just don't see as much of the low fare penetration in that market. Peach is flying.
There I have a question. When I see the Japanese market, we have a look on plane spotters from there at the moment. So I see Osaka Airport, Tokyo Narita, and Haneda. And this is in the hand of Japan Airlines and All Nippon. And they're flying with big wide bodies. Yeah. So yeah. I think this could be a reason for those airlines to get into that market.
Yeah, well, it's, Narita in particular will have a lot more room now. Because Haneda is very restricted. Narita used to be, but as more international flights can be operated from Haneda, and they have that fairly new runway there, more airlines are leaving Narita. And so there is opportunity there. That's going to be more for leisure, more for low cost. But it's hard to know what the right model is to work there, because there have been a lot of efforts and many have failed. So we'll see about that. But ANA and Japan Airlines they're just the big two, and there had been some talk about trying to merge them, which I don't know if that would ever happen. But Japan is just a different kind of market. It's a tougher market, and you have an airline that may be on the list this year if you look into Korea. So Avianca, which will be merging with Korean, and what happens to all their low-cost subsidiaries and all that. So there's just a lot of trying to rationalize within the Asian market right now, because there is more than there needs to be, I think. So we'll see.
Are you concerned about the future of Cathay Pacific?
Oh, of course. Look, Hong Kong is, I mean, before the pandemic, Hong Kong was in trouble. You have the Chinese, clamping down on any sort of freedoms and independence that they had in Hong Kong. That is what made it a financial capital in Asia. And so the more that they do that, then the less attractive Hong Kong is for people to visit. The pandemic certainly doesn't help, but it was already on a decline. And so now you see Cathay saying, okay, we will just have Cathay Pacific. We won't have Cathay Dragon, but we'll have HK Express, which they bought and is their now low-cost operator. And so they're struggling to find their place in the world, because Cathay Pacific, of course, is such a higher level premium airline that does cater to the financial market, to huge business interests. And it remains to be seen how important Hong Kong will remain in the global network of these places in the future. Whether Shanghai ends up surpassing it as China decides how it wants to do things. So I do worry for Cathay Pacific. I think they have a really tough road ahead.
Yeah. The same as I do, yeah. Okay. Brett, I would say thanks a lot for this very small flight around the world through the airlines we lost last year. If you want to go into deeper information, go on Brett's website. It's called Crankyflier.com. You find over there the section Airlines We Lost, and there is a big list. We couldn't mention all the airlines from last year, but hopefully we see some back flying this year. Maybe we can talk about thumbs are pressed, and fingers crossed for all things happening this year 2021. Everybody is in the airline industry waiting for the breakthrough with the vaccine and everything. And I wish you a good start for this year and hope to hear and see you soon again. For this time, I say thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Maybe we can meet in Berlin at Brandenburg there, and see the airport.
The invitation is made a couple of years ago, and you're invited to Berlin, and I can show you around, and we can do plane spotting from a very new terrace. It's not the best terrace like Tegel or others in Germany, but it's possible to see planes in action, and that's all.
I think it would be fun. The last time I was in Berlin, this will tell you how long it was, I landed on a Pan Am A310. So that's been a while.
Plane spotters heaven, Pan Am,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Brett, thanks a lot and see you soon. Greetings to California.
All right, thank you.